Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight for You Almost Made It, 7 Tips for Ending the School Year Strong. My name is Dawn, and I'm going to be walking you through the webinar this evening. All of the strategies and resources that I'm sharing are found in this document you see on your screen, but Heather put a link in the chat box there. So if you have any trouble with that, Heather's our tech guru behind the scenes there. So if you have any issues, go ahead and send her a note, a message, and she'll be sure to take care of that for you. Hey, Heather, how you doing back there?
Good, thanks. Hi, everyone.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for joining us. And we're going to start off by talking about our sponsor for today, the Blue Apple Projects. These projects were built to engage students, teach content, and make the world a better place. Each project includes everything you need to make this real in your classroom, from the project plans, supplies, the online options, real-world connections, cross-curricular content, and collaboration options. And because you are watching this webinar, whether in person or the recording, you have the opportunity to receive 10% off your next project by using the coupon code webinar at blueappleteacher.org. Okay, Heather, let's start off with a poll. I'm curious to find out who's here. So if you could answer, what grade level of students do you teach? Take just a few seconds to answer that. And just to let you know that the strategies, the resources I'm going to share tonight really work at all grade levels. Okay, Heather, what do we have?
We have 28% lower L, 44% upper L, 17% middle school, 17 high school, and 0 other or admin.
Okay, fantastic. So we have a really great representation of all grade levels, maybe a little higher in the elementary side. But again, everything that I'm going to share with you does really meet the needs of all grade levels, K-12. So we can't really talk about a finish line without thinking about a race. Well, at least for me, that was probably the easiest, the best analogy. And in full disclosure, I am not a runner. And I just found out Heather is not either. Are you, Heather?
Nope.
But we both know people in our lives that are runners and that train for marathons. And so when I think about this school year, I think about it as a marathon, just with all the obstacles, the twists and turns, and it's just so challenging. And there were times that you might have felt that you were on that journey alone. And maybe you were physically alone at your computer teaching your students remotely. And there were times where it just got so hard, overwhelming, and you might have stumbled or fallen down and needed to rely on each other and your colleagues, your peers to help you back up, supporting each other to get you to that finish line. And now we're almost there. We're at that last stretch, but that doesn't mean it's any easier, because it's not. It is difficult to get to that finish line where we can finally feel that relief, that satisfaction of finishing this journey. And that's what I want to share with you today. I want to share with you some strategies, some tips and resources to really finish this year strong, to up the engagement of your students, bring them along with you so that you're all there engaged to the very end. So I'm going to share with you 7 tips for ending the school year strong, helping you make every moment count without burning out. And then lastly, I want to share some just reminders on how to make sure that you take care of yourself and you have a wonderful summer. So let's, again, go ahead and take a poll here, and let's talk about engagement level. On a scale of 1 to 5, what is the current engagement level of your students? Okay, are they at a 1? They're already on summer break. Or are they at a 5? They do not want school to end. So where are your students at right now? Just give a few more seconds, and Heather, you want to share those results?
Yeah, so 14% are already on summer break, 38% are at a level 2, 29% at a level 3, 19% at a level 4, and 0% do not want school to end.
All right, well, that doesn't surprise any of us there as well. So we all know that this time of year is very difficult for engagement for our students, but also that level of focus, right? And especially this year. So I want to ask this question again, but I want to ask it of you. On a scale of 1 to 5, what is your current engagement level? Are you at a 1, wishing you were already on summer break? Or are you at a 5, you don't want school to end? Take a few seconds to answer that. And Heather, whenever that's ready.
So 33% wish they were already on summer break, 4% is at a level 2, 42% is at a level 3, 17% at a level 4, and 4% does not want school to end.
Well, that's fantastic. Excellent. Well, we're all over the board there. And I know it's just been a very difficult time of year, or this whole school year has been very difficult. And this time of year it's so difficult when we're looking at our classes and our students are staring out the windows, wanting to be outside maybe they're still at the computer, just kind of keeping that engagement level and having them join you along that path that way to the finish line. So I want to share with you those tips to really end that school year strong. And we're going to start with the first one, and it has to do with your students looking out the window. Instead of fighting it, let's embrace it. Let's get them outside. So think about different ways that you can bring your students out of the classroom. And I want to share with you a resource that we just put together to do just that. It's called The Amazing Outdoors. This is all in that resource document that's in the chat box there. These are 4 lessons, and they're quick. They're about 15 minutes to implement. Everything is ready for you to bring your students outdoors, to work collaboratively, but also to think critically and creatively for the end of the school year. So the first lesson is actually a series of different activities you can pick from. These are all STEAM inspired, and I wanted to share with you a couple of my favorite. The first is this pendulum paintings. And so you can have your students learn a little bit about pendulums. You can have them try different variables, such as maybe the length of the string. How does that affect the period and the frequency? But the really neat part about this pendulum is that they're creating art with it. And so how do these different changes to variables affect that patterns and the art that they're creating with that? Another really quick and easy and engaging activity is have the students create this water clock. It's basically a timer that they're creating, and they can adjust like the hole, the diameter of the cap to see how that affects their markings on their bottle for their different minutes. But the really neat thing is actually use this. So they've got now this timer or this clock that they've created. Use it in an activity. Maybe it's a game that you're playing outside, or there are games or activities you're doing in the classroom, but have them actually use it. The second lesson I wanted to share with you, this is a scavenger hunt, and it's not any scavenger hunt. It's a scavenger hunt that requires a lot of critical, creative thinking, and it gets the students outside. So you can see here we've come up with a few challenges for the students to find in nature. So for example, find something that's moving but not an animal. The key is they don't just identify what they found and where they found it. They have to justify why they think their answer is right. So it's a really great opportunity for you to get your students to discuss and have some respectful discourse on their different answers and justifications. Another great tool to go along with this is something that I've recently been using quite a bit, is the Seek app. It's a free download for a device. It's by iNaturalist. And what you do is you take your camera on that organism, you point at it, and it will identify it for you. So another great tool to use as you get your students outside and exploring, and definitely something I would have loved to have had when I was in college and taking botany class for sure. But it is a great tool to bring into the classroom as well. The third lesson from this series of outdoors lessons is what we call pandemic planters. And this is a great opportunity to bring SEL into your classroom. And what we have our students do is we have them find biodegradable planters from the pandemic. So you can see you've got the toilet paper rolls, you've got the food cartons, you've got the mask. And we have them do a research about what types of plants grow in your area based upon your weather and your soil conditions. And then they bury those. They bury them in the ground, and they're really taking those memories of those challenging times and turning them into new growth. So just a really great SEL activity to bring to the outdoors. And last, we have what we call the Do Something Bingo. And this is having students think outside of themselves while they're outside, exploring nature and doing something for the world around them. And this is something you can have each student pick one of those activities to do, bringing evidence of that, and then celebrate a bingo when your class gets a bingo. Or you could have your students take that home with them over the summer and bring that back to you in the fall with their bingo as well. So I shared with you 4 of those amazing outdoors activities. I'm curious, which of these do you think you might try with your students to end the school year? We have the STEAM team, the Nature Explore scavenger hunt, that planter pandemic, and the Do Something bingo. So take a few seconds to identify which you might try. All right, Heather, how does that look?
So it looks like 15% would like to try the STEAM team, 40% want to try the Nature Explore scavenger hunt, 15% want to try the planter pandemic, and then 60% want to try Do Something bingo.
Absolutely, that's fantastic, great. And the Do Something bingo and the Nature Explore scavenger hunt are 2 of my absolute favorites too. Absolutely, thank you so much. And if these activities don't necessarily mesh with what it is you need to teach the end of this year, or what you have on your plans, just think about ways to get your students in the outdoors. All right, the second tip for helping you end the school year strong is to spend some time on affirmations. So I want to share some quick affirmations that you can use with your students, just a few minutes at the beginning or the end of each class. One is a simple toast, and you could bring in little paper cups, fill it with some juice and water, and have your students toast each other. You give each student a name so everyone is represented, and have them send an affirmation in the form of a toast. Now, if your students are not familiar or comfortable with affirmations or how to start one, you can give them stems like this. I know you are an incredible artist because you were able to illustrate photosynthesis in our biology project. And really teaching them how to do a proper affirmation that is a little bit deeper, not as superficial, is a great way, by giving stems is a great way to do that, or modeling that. I want to share this tip as well, or this strategy. This actually I got from my daughter's 8th grade history teacher. So shout out to Mrs. Stevenson. Thanks for sharing this. It's called the hot seat. And what she does is she has each one of her students sit in the front of the classroom for 3 minutes. And behind them is a screen. And on the screen is this Google slide where the rest of the class for the 3 minutes will type in affirmations about that student. After that time is up, then the teacher will take a picture of the student in front of their screen, and it will go in this Google slide. And then this becomes a part of a memory book of all the students from the class. So it's just a really great way to capture affirmations and then to celebrate that as a whole class. Now looking at affirmations of teacher to student, one way to do that, now we're heading into the end of the year, is with some Post-it notes, just 1 to 2 sentence affirmations to your students. So thinking about how many days of school are left for you, how many students you have in your various classes, so how many of these do you need to do a day? And if it's doable, think about putting this on the calendar and giving a note to each student before they leave for the end of the year. Now, if that's not as doable for you and you have way too many students and not enough time to do that, consider writing a letter to your class. So in each class, celebrate the perseverance, the grit, all the successes that class had this year. Write it in a letter to them that they can take home and remember your class by. Now, thinking outside of the classroom walls, you can also have your students affirm other teachers. So I put together a template that is in that resource document where they can write affirmations to other teachers and send those out. You could also have them write handwritten notes, or you can even consider a nominated teacher for, we have what we call a Caught Being Awesome, and that's at our blueappleteacher.org. So you could have or your students could nominate these teachers for our Caught Being Awesome award as well. So we talked about affirmations. Now let's talk about celebrations. Now, celebrations is looking at the class as a whole and celebrating the success of the group. One great way to do that is to have your students come up with a top 10 list, David Letterman style, of the their favorite or most impactful things. Have each student share one idea, and then you can vote on the top 10. A little bit more involved is have your students create a memory book. You can have each student take a page and put in pictures, text of their favorite or most impactful things that happened in the class this school year. And this template, again, is in that resource document. You can put a little different spin on bingo. Maybe you're familiar with the getting to know you bingo that's maybe done at the beginning of the year. Let's turn this now into a celebration bingo and do this at the end of the year and have each student share with you one thing that they're most proud of this school year. And you create that bingo board. You can do that for free in my free bingo cards, and then have them try to go around and get a bingo by finding the students that match up with their most proud moment. And lastly, another great way to really celebrate is to have your students write a letter to the next year's class. Now, if you have younger learners, you might want to write that as a whole class letter together. But think about what surprised them. What advice do they have? Is there anything funny they want to share? What were their biggest successes to really celebrate the end of the year to that upcoming class? All right, so we talked about getting outdoors. We talked about affirming each other. We talked about celebrating our successes. Now we need to talk about what do we have left to teach, the prioritization, and really what matters the most. So think about what it is you have to teach, brain dump that list, and realize you're probably not going to be able to get to all of it. Trying to cram so much at the end is not good for you, and we know not best for our students. So we need to be very selective, very laser focused in our teaching. So always look for opportunities that have the most impact. Is it relevant? Does it matter? And try to stay away from these big new initiatives or projects that you want at the end of the year. So one resource that could help you prioritize is our standard scoring sheets. We created this for grades K through 8 in the 4 main content areas. Now, if you're not a grade K-8 teacher or you don't teach one of those main content areas, you can still use something like this and reach out to me and I can definitely help you with that. But what we did is we took all the standards from all the 4 content areas and we created 3 different criteria that we were going to score them on. And then we went through and scored them to identify power standards. Now that was very subjective. Yours are going to look different than ours. So just determine what categories might be best for you, because these categories here are what we chose. Building block, so how much future learning builds off the standard. Multidisciplinary, so how applicable is the standard across multiple content areas. And what's that level of thinking, on Bloom's taxonomy. But there might be a different category in here that you want to add based upon your goals. Or you might also want to consider using learning loss as a category as you're working and planning for next year and working with the grade level teacher above you as well. So this is a great resource to use now, if you would like, but also something you can use with your PLC, your admin, your grade level or content team this fall too. Okay, so I shared a lot of strategies and I threw a lot of things at you, but I'm curious to find out which of these might you try. So I shared quite a few affirmation strategies, some celebration strategies, and also that standardized scoring sheet to really help you prioritize and pinpoint those standards that you want to cover. So take a few seconds to identify those you might try. And Heather, when everything looks good, if you want to share out those results.
Yeah, so 60% would like to try affirmation strategies, 65% would like to try celebration strategies, and then 20% would like to try the standardized scoring sheets.
Excellent. So we have everything represented as well. And those scoring sheets are definitely something that you can look at to come fall for your planning time as well. Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, so we are on our last few tips here. So tip number 5 is to gamify whenever possible. And so I wanted to share with you, this is a game we developed from our virtual vaccination project where students learn about the power of vaccinations, and we call it Spot It to Stop It. And in this, the students have to figure out which one of those microbes there is the pathogen. But they have no key. They have no idea. It's basically just trial and error. And so by doing that and realizing that, hey, if I would have had this and really knew what it was I was supposed to be looking for, that would make that much easier. And tying that into vaccines and how vaccines, that's what they do for antibodies. It shows them a pathogen so they can remember it and then destroy it. So this resource, this activity is in the resource guide 2. This one's a little bit more involved game, but if you're looking for something a little bit quicker to implement into your classroom with content that you already have, think about ways to do review games using sticky notes. So we call this hide and seek sticky notes. So hide sticky note questions around the classroom, have your students try to find them and answer, and maybe you have different colors for different points. So the yellow ones are 10 points and the pink ones are 20 points and so forth. And you can turn that into a competition. You could even take that outside if you want and hide those sticky notes around that outside area if you have that accessibility. Another great way to gamify but also get your students outside is to bring in that chalk. You can create games using chalk outside. You could have your students write questions in chalk for other students to answer. They could draw diagrams, illustrations, have students label them or write answers to. So another great way to gamify but also get your students outside. And as you know, there are a slew of online review options for our students. They're great formative assessment tools for us as well. But I just wanted to share some of our favorites. So that's what you see on our screen, some of our favorite online review options as your students are preparing for it's final or just reviewing at the end of the year. And the one in particular I wanted to share with you is the Flippity. Now I love Flippity. Flippity is great for all these interactive games, but I really like the scavenger hunt. And the reason I do is because number one, it's very easy to put together. And number two, it's something that your students can do as well. So if you can take some of that review and creating these games off of you and put it on the students, all the better. So all of these resources and links to these different online review options are in that resource guide as well. Our sixth tip to help us end the school year strong is to make sure we take time to reflect on the year. Now this GIF I've used multiple times this year, but I really can't find anything else that depicts this year as well as that. But taking time to reflect before you completely leave the classroom for the summer is really important. So one great way to reflect is to use this keep, start, stop strategy. So just write it down. What are those things that you want to keep doing? What are those things you want to start doing? And what are those things you want to stop doing? Much easier to do that now when it's fresh in your mind as opposed to coming in August or September and trying to remember that. Another great reflection, this is from Jennifer Gonzalez, and it's the gut level teacher reflection. And so you can make a list of all those educational buzzwords right now, all those buzzwords you've heard within the last year or two. And maybe you do this within your grade level team or your PLC group, and you cut these out and put them in strips and you draw them out of hat. But what is your gut level? What's your first reaction you have? And if that first reaction is maybe a little bit more negative, it might be something you're not as comfortable with and something you want to seek, maybe more professional learning or growth on. And if it's something maybe it's a little more positive to you, it might be something that, you're good or you're more comfortable with. So another great reflection to do at the end of the year. And the last tool I wanted to share with you to help you reflect is the learning loss survey that we've put together. We know that there's been unfinished learning and that there was most likely gaps that might have occurred. So a great way to get that in writing or write that down and be able to share it is to do this survey, something you can do within your teams. You can share that with your admin as well as you are planning for the fall. All right, our seventh tip is all about you, renewing and restoring, taking care of you. And this might be hard to do right now, finding that time. But if you can, that's all the better. So if you find those things that really inspire you, like those books, maybe they're education books, maybe they're not. One great place to find inspiration are all those notes from students. You may have a folder of them and pull them out once a day, read them, maybe at the beginning of the day, maybe at the end of the day. And not only is that going to make your day great, it also just reminds you of why you do what you do. Now, when I think of renew and restore, I might not always think about professional development or professional growth, but bear with me here. The reason why I wanted to put this in here is just to remind you is you know what you need, right? You know what professional learning that you are most passionate about, what you want to learn more about. So take the time at the end of this year before you leave just to identify what are those areas of professional growth you might want to consider come fall. And we've put together a teacher PD needs survey. So if that's something, again, you can share with your team, you can share with your admin to help kind of focus those needs. But also realize that your professional growth is for you. And you can find that in places that are outside of full day workshops. They could be 30-minute webinars like this, or a Twitter chat, or a YouTube video, or a podcast. So we've put together a whole slew of resources for you, some recommended resources to help you get that PD that so what you want, right? And the last one I wanted to end on here to really help you restore and renew is to bring meaning to your day. So really quick and easy things that you can implement to make your day more meaningful. So for today, it says, send a handwritten note to someone you care about. If that's something that you can't do, maybe look at tomorrow. Tomorrow says, reflect on what makes you feel valued and purposeful. So thinking about quick ways to really add a little bit more meaning into each day to help you renew and restore. So I went through quite a few strategies very quickly, but we talked about gamification. We talked about reflecting on your year, and we talked about making sure you're taking time to renew and restore and find out what matters to you. Which of those areas might you try or consider these last few weeks of school? And Heather, when those look to be coming in, go ahead and let me know what we got.
Okay, so 67% would like to gamify.
Nice.
42% would like to reflect on the year, and 54% would like to renew and restore.
Fantastic, excellent. And I'm hoping that that renew and restore for you, you're able to find that time to do that. And that's actually going to take us to our last couple minutes here, is making sure that you take care of you and you have a wonderful summer. Just some really quick reminders to walk away, to be out of office, and put those notices on your phone, on your email. And an easy way to do that is just to stay away from your device for a little bit. Limit yourself, baby steps. If it means just a few minutes a day and not checking emails, just to walk away. Give a little digital detox is always good. And last, which I think is most important, but also most difficult, is to have a plan for relaxing. Because we know that our summers aren't all about relaxing. There's a lot that we do during the summer, as you can see by that image there. So create a plan, put it on the calendar, and stick to it. Because an investment in you is an investment in the people around you. Give yourself permission, like I said, to walk away, to turn that education brain off for a little bit. So last poll for today. What are you going to give yourself permission to do this summer? Are you going to be out of office? Are you going to walk away from those digital devices for a while? And will you plan for relaxation? What are you going to give yourself permission to do? And Heather, when that looks to be open or closed, excuse me.
So 44% want to be out of office, 28% plan to do a digital detox, and 84% plan for relaxation.
Fantastic. That is so exciting to hear, because that is so important. That's something that doesn't always get done. So that's excellent. Thank you. Now, if you liked what you heard today, the tips, the strategies, the resources, please share this with your administrator. We'd love to come and talk to you, talk to your school, whether it's in person or virtually, on all those different PD topics there and many more. So check us out at blueappleteacher.org, and we'd love to continue this conversation. I also want to invite you to our webinar next month, which is going to be really awesome because we're going to do live giveaways. My colleagues Ben and Jamie are going to share the 5 greatest lessons learned this school year, and then also raffle off some really awesome prizes. So check us out next month, June 16th. Hope you can make it. And finally, I just want to thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of this webinar today, and thank you for everything that you do. If you do get a chance, we have an end of the year survey. Heather, I believe, put the bit.ly in the chat box there, and the first 50 to respond will receive a $5 Starbucks gift card. But we just want to hear from you and about services that we provide, like these webinars. What are things that we can continue to do to support you come next school year? Again, thank you so much for everything you do, for what you do for your students, for your school, and your community. I hope you have a wonderful and well-deserved, relaxing summer. Bye, y'all.